Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing At Childhood's End, which of course is a story by Sophie Aldred and is about Ace, and Ace encountering the 13th Doctor when the 13th Doctor is traveling with Yaz, Graham, and Ryan. So around the series 11 or 12 time. Seems more like series 11 or between series 11 and 12 because the Doctor seems a little more chipper. Basically before the events of Spyfall, if I had to guess. And of course Ace, from her point of view in present time, or technically 2020, which I'm guessing is when it came out. It's interesting because it does have a couple interludes in the story which take place from Ace's point of view in around 1990 that have her still traveling with the 7th Doctor. It actually shows us why she stopped traveling with the Doctor, why she left the Doctor, what happened, and how they kind of parted on not good terms. There's 2 interludes spread out across the story that really show that. So we get to see a little bit of McCoy in this too, and those, and kind of what went wrong there, and how the events from then are tying into the events happening in the rest of the story in 2020. It's interesting seeing Ace, of course Ace again more grown, and how she's similar but different from the Ace we're familiar with. She has modified her Nitro 9 into what she now calls Nitro 90, and it's basically a little marble you can throw that creates an even bigger boom. That's pretty cool. I kind of wished she had had K9, like if Sarah Jane had passed away in canon at this time, that she had kind of taken up K9, but no K9. But she has a couple other people with her. She has kind of an assistant that's pretty helpful. She has an ex-boyfriend that works basically for NASA. That's a huge part of the story. He's a pretty cool character. I like him. And the explanation for why they're not dating anymore. It does really well at fleshing him out. But it's interesting to see the similarities between Ace now and Ace then. And watching her interact with 13 and watching her interact with Graham, Ryan, and Yaz, especially Yaz, because her and Yaz don't really take to each other, which, taking into context, Yaz's, I was going to say infatuation. Yeah, infatuation seems like a good word. Infatuation with the Doctor and how much she wants a relationship with the Doctor. It actually makes sense where Yaz would be a little standoffish with someone like Ace. But they do take a while to click together. They're a little standoffish with each other. And part of the reason is, Ace has all of these weapons to where Yaz, as someone who's, police trained, thinks that Ace is kind of like a terrorist. That's, okay, this is the kind of stuff a terrorist would have. I don't know if I can trust you. That's interesting because it's nice to see, even though it doesn't touch on this much, it touch on her police training and her police background, because the show certainly doesn't do that very often. So it's nice to see that the book does touch on that a bit. And it's interesting watching them kind of get to where they talk to each other, and how Yaz is a little wary, and at one point Ace is just like, okay, I don't have time for this crap. If we need to talk, if we have a problem, let's talk about it. So that's actually done really well. And again, it makes sense, especially from Yaz's point of view, why she would be a little wary or on her toes with Ace. She seems to get along with Ryan and Yaz pretty well. It also has one of Ace's friends, Chantel, I can't remember how it pronounces her name, who's apparently also in, I'm guessing, Survival. It references her in Survival. I can't remember if she's mentioned by name in Survival or not. But apparently she was around in the events of Survival because she knows who the Doctor is. And she's written really well in the story and tied in with it as well. And it's interesting watching her kind of character arc. She has a bit of a character arc, which I like, because she's kind of basically a model. She does a lot of modeling work. Watching her get down and dirty and beating up people at the end is pretty cool. There's even a cool scene where Ace gets to use her bat. And it is the bat. And I was like, didn't the bat get destroyed in Remembrance? But it mentions in there, the Doctor had it rebuilt. The 13th Doctor mentions, it got destroyed, but I had it remade. And I'm like, so Ace actually got to pull out the bat and go to town with some creatures on it. And then even Ryan got a chance to use it and go to town on some robots on it. So that's pretty cool. I love the bat. Ace got to wear her signature jacket in a bit. That's pretty neat. The 13th Doctor is actually pretty good in this story, which continues to prove to me that no matter how many people scream, it's the writing, it's the writing, it's the writing on the TV show, part of it is just Whittaker. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of it is the writing, but some of it is Whittaker. Because while Whittaker can be good on occasions, there's a lot of times where I don't feel like she pulls off the Doctor. And what really proves this to me is experiencing the Doctor in other medias, like novels and comic books, where she's done so much better. The character is done better. I've talked before about how my favorite 13th Doctor story isn't from the TV show. It's the short story by Stephen Moffat called Terror of the Umpty-Ums. If you've never read it, it's online. Go read it. It's a story he put out during lockdown, and it nails the 13th Doctor. It really makes her feel like the Doctor. What she does in that story is exactly what the Doctor would do, and I love it. And even some of the comic books that I've been sent. Matter of fact, this book was actually sent to me by one of my subscribers, Steven, who also sent a lot of those comics. He sent me this really, really big box full of a lot of stuff. And this book was one of the books in it. And he had several comic books from the 13th Doctor era. And the comic books, all of the comic books, I think I've read 2 or 3 of the comic books with the 13th Doctor, and they've all been good. And she's great in this. She's pretty much everything I've seen her in outside of the TV show, she's been fine, good, haven't had any issues. Again, in this, her Doctor feels a lot like the Doctor. She's the kind of flippity-gidgety Doctor, like Tennant or Smith, who are very different Doctors themselves, but they're a bit hyper. But what she's doing makes sense. The decisions she makes make sense. And I'm not having to rely on Whittaker's acting to try to pull it off, because Whittaker gets some speeches sometimes where her delivery falls flat. As much as I love Eva the Daleks, and I really liked Eva the Daleks, that speech she gives, that motivational speech she gives at one point, falls flat. Doesn't work. When she's saying it, I'm not buying it. I don't feel like I'm listening to the Doctor talk. I feel like I'm listening to an actress say lines, not a character speak. Whereas if I had read that in the novel, I think it would have sold more. Because it allows me to interpret the 13th Doctor how I think she would work in my head, and that works way better. So I enjoyed At Childhood's End. It has some interesting villains in it. Kind of the main villain of what's going on is an interesting character, and how he ties into Ace and Ace's past is really well done, really well connected. I like that, to where it's kind of personal for Ace. There's some other creatures in there that's done really well. It has an interesting race that's basically like biped horses on 2 legs, but with the horse heads are the size of human heads. It's a pretty interesting idea. To be fair, in Doctor Who, I do get kind of tired of aliens that are basically just Earth animals, but they walk upright and talk. That is a bit tropey. As much as I love the Jadoon, as much as I like the Jadoon, I've never been a fan of just the alien is a Earth monster, but bigger. Maybe it walks on 2 legs. That's another problem I have with Vincent and the Doctor is it's an invisible rooster. Not intimidated. See, I like something like the xenomorph from Alien. The alien from Alien, because that thing looks like it stepped out of a nightmare. It is an H.R. Geiger nightmare. That thing doesn't look like anything that would exist on Earth. It's one of the reasons why it's so terrifying. Even the Predator, while still having kind of a, crustaceous appearance, still looks very alien. That's one of the reasons why they work so effectively. So I get tired when Doctor Who just has, oh, it's a giant rhino, or oh, it's a giant horse. I feel like it just seems lazy to me. It just seems lazy. You really want to terrify somebody, do something with a snake. For some reason, people do have this weird, innate fear of snakes. Maybe it's religion-based, maybe it's just because the way they move and slither just seems so unnatural to us. But for whatever, a lot of people have this built-in fear of snakes. Bring that back. I know they did that with the Mara already in Classic Who, but you could really go further with that in Classic Who, or Modern Who. They did that in Classic Who and Kenda and Snake Dance, but they can really do stuff with that Modern Who. I can't talk today, I'm tired. Actually, I had a tooth pulled, or I had a tooth extracted, and it really hurts. So that's on my mind. But yeah, I like the story at Childhood's End. It's really nice. It's interesting seeing Ace with the 13th Doctor and how they get along, and seeing Ace kind of forgive the 13th Doctor for the actions of the 7th Doctor. Because the 7th Doctor in this is very much season 26 Chessmaster McCoy, manipulating McCoy, and the time we get with him here. And it's a nice little adventure that sends us to all sorts of different interesting places in flashbacks and in just across the journey of the story. It's pretty neat. There's a lot going on in it. It's definitely not a boring story. And I very much enjoyed it. I've been reading a lot of the novelizations of classic episodes recently because I got sent a bunch of those, so I've been reading through those. So it's nice to kind of take a break from that and read, an original story, a story that I wasn't familiar with, so I could experience for the first time. So that was pretty neat, and I enjoyed it. So, at Childhood's End, what do you think of it? Have you read it? I'd like to know your opinion. Do you think Sophie did a good job? Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I want to give a shout out to one of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane. I appreciate his continued support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. If you would like to contribute to my Patreon, there's a link to that down in the description below. Or if there's anything you would like to send me to look at, either to watch or to read or to review, my P.O. box is down in the description, as is a link to my Amazon wish list. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.